Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the monthly Superintendent's Press Conference and Media Briefing. We're excited to be here today to cover a lot of issues. We have Superintendent Smith, who's going to give you an outline of upcoming events and things we're focused on, and then we'll take some questions at the end. So without further ado, Superintendent Jack Smith.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here as we have reached the midpoint of the school year. We're into second semester and students are engaged across all 208 school sites right now in learning and experiencing school, and it's our goal to make that experience as good and productive and positive as possible. Oftentimes at these events, we talk about difficult situations or various things that have happened in the community or in the state or in the school system. And I just want to keep pulling people's attention also at the same time to the fact that we have 166,300 students. And as I walk through schools almost every week, they show up, they pay attention, they treat one another very, very well. They do very good things for one another and for our community. And sometimes students don't do what they should do. Sometimes adults don't do what they should do. And that's just what happens in society and in our community. And at the same time, we need to give credit to many, many students who do every day treat people the right way. And that has been one of our ongoing conversations, is around how we respond when students and others in our school community don't treat people because of biases, because of hateful or prejudiced views, because of impulsive acts. They do things that they should not do. And how do we as a school system, as a learning organization, respond to that and support students, respond to what they've done, and sometimes there are consequences for that and have to be, and also make sure that they can move forward as a child or a pre-adolescent or an adolescent and move ahead in their life and not do those things, not repeat them. And so as we think about bias and actions and activities that can be so hurtful and so destructive, how do we make sure that we're responding in a way that builds a stronger, more positive community, and individually, each student, one at a time, that we influence them and help them think about how to make their way through life and how to go out into the world and find their way and contribute to our community and benefit from it so that they don't find themselves in difficult situations and that they have not done hateful, destructive things to other people. And so we told you that this month Dr. McKnight would be back to talk more about our efforts and how we're doing that. So we're going to start today with Dr. Monifa McKnight. Monifa, please.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's good to be back here. We were just here a short month ago and really just started the conversation to speak with you about what we would be doing more explicitly as a district to address hate and bias incident procedures within our school system. So I will this morning talk you through some specific work that we've been able to work on over the last couple of months to really refine our practices and look at opportunities to include additional processes to help us address the needs within our school system. So, in light of recent troubling events of hate and bias in our schools and within our community within MCPS, we've taken various steps to ensure that all schools and offices have a clear approach to responding, restoring, and preventing these incidents at its school district level. So hate bias incidents are involving discrimination based on personal characteristics that include race, ethnicity, color, ancestry, national origin, religion, immigration status, sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, family parental status, marital status, age, physical or mental disability, poverty and socioeconomic status, language, or other legally or constitutionally protected attributes or affiliations. And so with that, I'll say that as a Board of Education policy that we have implemented in MCPS, we have stated in that policy in practice that discrimination in any form will not be tolerated. It impedes our district's ability to discharge its responsibilities to all students and staff and achieve our community's long-standing efforts to create, foster, and promote equity, inclusion, and most importantly, acceptance for every single individual. So our work on this issue has involved many internal and external stakeholders who we are so grateful for, who've been a part of this work to help refine and talk through practice with us. And I'll acknowledge our JCRC, Identity, Black and Brown Coalition, MCC, PTA, LGBTQ Committee, and others. And we build on our plan, and we've built on 3 main areas of focus to really address the needs. And they are, we're gonna focus on responsive actions, restorative actions, and preventative actions. And we're grateful for their partnership in helping us to look at ways to look at our work, and we look forward to continue to have collaboration so that we can look at these critical areas and issues as they come up in our school system. So just to be even a little bit more explicit to define the responsive actions, restorative actions, and preventative actions, I'll talk about what each one of those areas mean specifically in our plan moving forward. So as I talk about responsive actions, it pertains to our responsive actions that we have clearly identified linear approaches to responding to a specific report of hate bias in a school. We have a structured process in place, but over our work over the past few months, although we've had a process in place, we've looked at opportunities to increase collaboration with our stakeholders and really look at areas of improvement and enhancement. So with that, and with that work, I'll say that this includes key areas of focus as, number 1, enhancing the quick reference guide on hate and bias incidents for principals that more clearly outlines the steps schools must take in collaboration with central office. Some of these new steps for principals include outreach to special interest groups and PTA leadership to determine next steps that may involve community engagement. And again, that's an opportunity to just focus on involving the community in this process. Number 2, another step that we've taken in being responsive is completing the MCPS form on bullying, harassment, or intimidation that has already been in existence, but making sure we're focusing on how we complete that form. And the particular enhancement in this area is that students, parents, and staff will be able to complete and submit the form online soon within the next couple of months. So again, as we think about access, we don't want there to be anything that impedes students and parents and community members to be able to report. So having this process online as a reporting system will allow us to create the opportunity of access. And this was something that we heard directly from the community that needed to be done in order to make things more readily available. And then third in this area, we're activating the behavioral threat assessment team when necessary after an incident has been reported, particularly to the Montgomery County Police Department. And so we have incidents that really need to be defined through an investigation that could really explore police involvement. We are definitely going to be working with them as partners to participate in that behavioral threat assessment to help us make informed decisions. So our next area I'll move to around restorative actions, and this is all about engaging with the Office of Student and Family Support and Engagement. And so as we think through our restorative actions, we're providing the resources and supports to schools to employ various strategies to address incidents of hate and bias. I'm pleased to share a new initiative targeting student and staff member education through Project Interrupt. Project Interrupt is a new initiative that will provide innovative tools and strategies to maximize participants' ability to impact their school environment on hate and bias and crime prevention. Project Interrupt will do the following. We're going to train students, administrators, staff, counselors, and community members to identify, prevent, and respond, and recenter re-engagement so that learning can continue. We recently were awarded a grant from the Maryland State Department of Education to implement Project Interrupt, and the initial wave of this training will target school clusters that have experienced a significant number of hate and bias incidents. Our schools will also continue to employ study circles, which will be led by our equity team to continue to engage our students and staff in a meaningful way and community members in a discussion that helps everyone understand their part in the progress moving forward. We're also going to have additional schools signing up each year to implement the restorative justice practices in their schools, so it becomes a centerpiece for every single school in the system. Community partners like JCRC, Identity, NAACP Parents Council, and many others have committed to partnering with the district this year and moving forward to offer community town halls, reflection days, parent information nights, and more to ensure that the community is informed and are engaged in this topic so that they can continue to be partners in this work. Our elementary schools are providing elementary diversity and inclusion dialogues. And this just gets at the heart of why the conversation has to start with our students at the elementary level. And through our Be Well 365 initiative, we are providing additional mental health supports to schools. As we think about all the reasons and things that impact why why people may participate or even involve themselves in these incidents, we also know that it's important to think about how do we provide a system of support and repair for the individual as well as the school environment. And so we look forward to being able to continue to employ our Be Well 365 initiative in this way. And then to further define the preventative actions, for our preventative actions at the beginning of each school year, and continuously through the school improvement process. And I'll emphasize those two pieces because, one, we've identified that in being preventative, we actually can be proactive in starting these conversations at the very beginning of the year when students arrive. And in that, the school improvement process is a process that every school has participated in for years, and it's a process that allows a school to be able to focus on their areas of need that actually impacts student learning and the school environment. So these are two avenues and ways that we have looked at to say this will allow us to take preventative action in a way that will be meaningful through venues that already exist. So we're going to be engaging staff members and students in conversations to best identify issues and understand the climate and culture of the school and community. A new process for central office is that staff from several units, including the equity unit, school support and improvement office, and the compliance unit, will huddle frequently to review the database of incidents to determine where there are clusters of schools that are experiencing a high number or a sudden surge in hate and bias incidents. This team, working with the school, will map out clear action steps for the school community. They will also be developing instructional materials and resources for students and staff, through staff development, through training modules for students, through project identity, restorative justice, curriculum opportunities, all of these avenues in which we're going to be able to engage students in the learning. And then third, identifying ongoing activities to bring diverse students together, which is ultimately what we have to continue to do. Many of these activities will be student-led and will provide new opportunities for students to reflect and hear from their peers the impact that these incidents are having. And I must acknowledge that our students have been critical partners in this work. They have taken the charge and have really, in our schools, led the efforts to have conversations with their peers and other adults in the building about how do we create the environment that we want that really does respect and support diversity for everyone. So again, I just highlight our students and their efforts in that because they're our future, and them being a part of creating what we want really gives us lots of leverage for what we hope to see. So these are just some highlights of the additional steps that we are taking as a system to address the surge in incidents and ensure all students have a safe and welcoming learning environment. I am confident that working together with our community, we will see significant improvement in our district. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McKnight. As Deputy Superintendent, Dr. McKnight is engaged in many areas of the work across the system, side by side with me, and I appreciate her very much. And no area of work is any more critical than helping students understand and choose to treat one another in the right way. This is, you all know this, but these are violations of board policies, student code of conducts, and we do respond. We respond very clearly with our students individually, and that is both a consequence for our behavior, which is an important thing that we all must learn, that there are consequences for the choices we make in life, but it's also an opportunity to teach and help students grow and develop into the people that they want to become as they walk out the door with a high school diploma. So I want to say thank you to Dr. McKnight and all the others that are engaged in this work on behalf of all of our students across the system. Another very serious body of work And we think all of the work that is done in a school system is serious because it's about our future. Students make up 100% of the future, as Secretary Riley said at the Department of Education in the 90s. 100% of our future. And this area of work is so critical because it goes to the very core of our work, which is keeping students safe while we provide them learning opportunities. The work around pedestrian safety is so critical for our students. With 1.1 million residents living in Montgomery County, many parts of this county are very, very crowded and congested and have a lot of human beings walking, bicycling, driving, and other sorts of activities going on. And we are a part of that responsibility in the community to help keep students safe as they're on their way to and from school and engaged in school activities across the system. And it's just so incredibly important and serious that we do everything we can do and that we work with the partners across the county and across the state to make sure that we keep students as safe as possible in every situation. So the first thing I'd say is if you are a driver and you pass stopped school buses or speed in school zones or ignore crosswalks or ignore people who aren't using crosswalks, pay attention. Students' lives are at risk, and there is no way to take that back if you don't pay attention. We certainly know that driver education and adult awareness is important. We also know that teaching our students how to be safe pedestrians is important. It's something we've been engaging in very vigorously in our curriculum and our classrooms over the last few years. It's been in the curriculum for decades, but as our community grows and becomes more congested, then we have to emphasize it even more with our students and have them hear these lessons and these messages and engage in these conversations even more. Creating safe routes to school is critically important also as we think about how we work with students who walk. 166,000 students, about 100,000 of them have a bus seat assigned to them, and that leaves about 66,000 of them who either ride in a car with a parent or a community member or walk to school. And that's an incredibly important part of all of this work too. And one of the areas of work that is cross-county, cross-stakeholder work is Vision Zero, and our participation with Vision Zero and the importance of continuing to build out the way we teach, the way we talk, the way we operate around students and pedestrian safety. Really pleased to have somebody who does a tremendous amount of work with over 1,500 buses running 4 times in the morning and 4 times in the afternoon, and literally thousands of bus stops, and that's Todd Watkins, our Director of Transportation, and he's going to share some specific work that he's been engaged with around Vision Zero and around pedestrian safety. Mr. Watkins.
Good morning. In keeping with the theme that Dr. Smith started with about having so many students and so many engaged in so much work throughout the day, and almost all of it goes right, that's true also in transportation. We have, well, nationally, 50% of students ride a school bus to get to school each day. That's about 25 million students. The other 25 million get there some other way. In MCPS, about 60% of our students ride a school bus every day to get to school. That means that we pick them up twice a day, once in the morning, once at their school, and drop them off twice a day. That's 36 million passenger pickups and 36 million passenger drop-offs per school year. And almost all of them are successful and students get where they're going safely. But 2 recent crashes back in December remind us that tragedy can strike any time, and so that we have to do all that we can to prevent that and minimize injury. And students getting on and off the school bus is the most dangerous part of the school bus trip. So I want to share a few things that we do there regarding safety of students. We review every bus route and every bus stop at least annually. We do it more often when there's construction or something else that changes the environment, or our own staff or the community alerts us to an issue. We have a supervisory position. Our first level supervisor position in our department drives at least 50% of their time. So they're out there on those bus routes every day driving, looking at bus stops, looking at bus routes, looking at what students are doing, and whether or not we have set a safe environment for them. On major roadways, we serve both sides of the street, so no student will have to cross a major roadway to get to a bus stop. On roads that you can't walk along, like Muncaster Mill or the roads like that, we serve students at their driveway. So if it's not safe for a student to walk to a bus stop, we pick them up at their house. We're working now to move stops where we have them on major roadways. We're looking to see where can we move them back away from the main road, back into neighborhoods. There are some places where we are able to do this with only an impact to the efficiency of the bus route, and we're moving those. There's some where we can't, where you just physically can't safely get the bus off of the main roadway into the apartment complex or other neighborhood stop and we have to leave them out on the main roadway. We have we continue to do in-service training for our bus drivers and bus attendants. We talk about issues like safe driving, defensive driving. We review crashes that we have to debrief to see what could we do to improve. Because no matter what we do in terms of the infrastructure of bus stops or the equipment we put on buses to keep kids safe, the most important safety device on a school bus is the bus operator and the bus attendant. We're working on some videos now to follow up to the two tragic incidents in September. Bradley Hills Elementary School is working in conjunction with our department to develop a video. They're using, Dr. Smith talked about student-led work. They're using students studying filmmaking at Whitman High School to produce a video aimed at elementary school students to talk about how to safely get on and off the school bus. We are also working on ones out to the public to talk about what do you do when you're approaching a vehicle, right? How do you avoid passing a school bus other than the obvious stop when the lights come on? We have an amazing safety patrol program on our elementary school buses. We work in conjunction with our partners at the Montgomery County Police Department and the AAA program. And we have a model school safety patrol program. It's a model program in the nation. We're working on a Stand Back campaign to talk to students about whether their stop happens to be one we can't move off a main roadway or whether they're in a neighborhood bus stop, to think about where the traffic is and stand back away from that at every opportunity they have. There's no reason that students can't wait back 50 or 100 feet instead of standing on the edge of the roadway, right? They can wait till the bus comes, stops traffic, and then come out to the bus. We get passed, Dr. Smith talked about people passing the red lights of the bus. We get passed between 800 and 1,200 times per day. Our buses get illegally passed, and we know this from data. There's a national survey that we participated in, a one-day survey. We do it every spring. It'll be coming up in May this year. We've done it for the past 8 years, and over those eight years, we've asked on one single day for our bus operators to count how many times they get passed, and the results have come in between 800 and 1,200 per year, or on that single day. We know now we have cameras, enforcement cameras on every single bus in the school system. That's a first for this year. This is the first year where we've had every single bus outfitted. And hundreds of citations are still issued every day with people illegally passing the red lights of our bus. One thing I'm very hopeful in data is there's only about a 6% repeat offender rate in those numbers. So out of the tremendous number of citations that have been issued since October of 2016, it's 140,000 tickets that have been issued for passing the school bus, but only about a 6% repeat offender rate. That gives me hope that we're going to run out of first-time offenders, right? That we're going to see significant behavior change, and we're looking very forward to those numbers coming way down. Also, Dr. Smith mentioned that about a third of MCPS students, a little more, aren't eligible for a school bus. They live close enough to their school, 2 miles to the high school, 1.5 miles to middle school, and 1 mile to elementary, along a safe and age-appropriate walk route that they're designated as walkers to school. Along those routes, we require sidewalks or some other safe pedestrian amenity along a main street. Neighborhood streets may or may not have sidewalks depending on the speed, the traffic volume, and that kind of thing. And there are many cases across the county where students have to walk on small neighborhood residential streets without sidewalks. high schoolers cross major intersections independently to get to school. Elementary and some middle school cases, there are adult crossing guards that help them with that effort. And we work with our partners at Montgomery County Police Department, with City of Rockville, and other local police jurisdictions in that adult crossing guard effort. The other thing is the Kids Ride Free program, right? So as of this summer, all students now can ride free all day, every day on ride-on and Metro buses routes within the county, and we are concerned about and watch about how kids get to those stops and can they get there safely and those kind of things. And we work with our partners at the county level and the state level to help improve intersections and walking routes and other pieces of the roadway system to make that work. But the bottom line is that wherever it's not safe to walk to school, we provide school bus service. And then I'll finish up by saying we have a long-standing participation in Vision Zero and other county and state efforts around pedestrian and vehicle safety. We are now leading, MCPS is now leading a student-focused Vision Zero group that we started earlier this school year, and we'll continue to do that, to take that larger body of Vision Zero work and focus it at the student level. Vision Zero is about designing the system so that even when human error occurs, and whether that's with the driver of a vehicle, the driver of a school bus, a pedestrian, a student waiting at a bus stop, whenever those kind of thing happens, the system would be designed so that it minimizes or eliminates injury or death. There's some things we can do in that effort, and that's moving bus stops like I talked about, providing bus service where it's not safe to walk, and there's some things that we need help on, like changing the design of an intersection. We do lots of collaboration with our county and state partners in that effort, and we are looking forward to continuing that work to keep our students safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins, very much for all the work you do on behalf of students. And I will mention today that I get many emails. And one of the things I've found since I've been in Montgomery County for almost 4 years is I get a tremendous number of positive emails about our transportation department. And so I think that's a credit to the literally thousands of people that work with you every day. And I just want to publicly thank them because they just really work very hard and very focused on student well-being. And certainly student well-being is an area of our focus today in this briefing. And we want to move next to a topic that I find very troubling. As a child who was growing up in the 1960s and early 70s, I remember distinctly as the society shifted around smoking cigarettes, where it was pervasive and nobody really said much about it, to the first time I remember as a child noticing that on advertisements and on the packages of cigarettes, they started posting warnings. And it showed up in our health classes as a middle and high school student in the 60s and early 70s. Everything shifted. We have a similar opportunity right now, and we need to take it because I think as we see what's printed in and shown in the media that's represented here today and across our society, vaping has become a serious health threat in our society, and it's become a health threat for students. And it's something we're particularly concerned about because it's not only an immediate problem for students, and it is often not something that the students are aware even of the serious risk that they're under, depending on what they're given or purchase or experience with that, but also a lifetime pattern of behavior. And so we've been doing a lot of work with that. Health officials have been working with us in Montgomery County, and they continue to say that they see a rise in the use of vaping among adolescents. In October, there were several incidents of students losing consciousness around this and being taken to hospitals. It's dangerous. It has negative health effects. It has negative effects across our society, and it's a serious problem and one we're taking seriously and working in our community on. And we have today with us Rochelle Rubin, who's the Associate Superintendent for student family support and engagement, and she's going to share some of our efforts as we think about this and work on it. As once again, we're one part of the solution. The entire community is going to have to be engaged in this conversation if we're really going to quickly identify for students the risks here, the dangers here, and why the choice is not to do it. So I want to thank Rochelle Rubin and Cara Grant, who's here, who heads up all of our curriculum work around health and physical fitness and all of those areas, and all the people that represented by the two of you across 208 schools. So Ms. Rubin, if you want to come up and share some of the work that you're doing.
Good morning. I think Dr. Smith very eloquently put it. The issue of our students engaging in the use of e-cigarettes, any substances, including, alcohol consumption, really is at the forefront of our consciousness in Montgomery County Public Schools. The reason for that is because I think we all know and agree that these behaviors often, first and foremost, are precipitated by something else that's going on with our students, but also we're very concerned about the impact that it has on not only the well-being, mental, physical, emotional, but also the academic aspect of our students, because we know that when they're engaging in these things, there is a significant and direct impact to how they're able to be available for that instruction in the classroom. And so we definitely see this as our concern, as a priority, and our work to engage our students, our parents, guardians, our community, the community at large, in helping to respond to these issues. So to that end, I'm happy to announce that in Montgomery County Public Schools, we have initiated what is known as the Let's Clear the Air, which is an anti-vaping campaign. This campaign is multidimensional, and we are proud to be partnered alongside the Department of Health and Human Resources. They've been our staunch partners in this work, and we're very appreciative of that. And really, there are 4 prongs that I would like to share with you this morning. So first, we have currently ongoing a student public service announcement campaign under the Let's Clear the Air umbrella. And our students across our secondary schools are currently participating with the district winners to be announced at a district-wide symposium. Second, the district-wide symposium. This will actually occur on Saturday, March 28th at Johns Hopkins University. And this will include a resource fair, breakout sessions, a guest speaker who is well-versed in substance use, ramifications, and most importantly, strategies to assist our youth. And this is actually, we're very proud to announce, a Be Well 365 weekend, because on Saturday we're offering the anti-vaping campaign symposium, and then on Sunday we will also have the Choose Respect conference that will occur in Wheaton. Next up, the collaborative effort between Montgomery County Public Schools and DHHS includes what we are terming student focus groups. I think you've heard it earlier by Dr. McKnight and Dr. Smith, the work to really dig a little bit deeper to what are the precipitating factors that are encouraging our youth to examine and engage, whether it's experiential or their actual mental health, social factors that are leading them to engage with substance use. The focus groups will allow us to hear from our youth. And so DHHS, they've held up about 4 of these at 4 of our schools, and we're looking to cover all of our secondary schools over the remainder of this year. And then finally, the 4th prong of our work involves our commitment to our parent community. I think as we've engaged with this work throughout the year, and we've had the opportunity to engage with parents, for example, the COPE trailer will be unveiled very soon. What we're hearing is, okay, so once I do recognize and realize that my child is having an issue with substance, what do I do? What are the resources? Where do I go? What help do I seek? And so in Montgomery County Public Schools, we're partnering to institute what will be a parent and student course on substance use, and looking to do that at times where parents are available, so on Saturdays and in the evenings, and also taking a look at our data. And as those incidents come across where students are engaging in school, how do we make sure that we're providing support that is not so much punitive as it is restorative and allows for students to repair? So the classes would be an avenue that we can steer our student population to, but also forging those connections so that parents are a part of that work that goes on. So that's all of the significant things that we have and exciting, I think, things we have going on. We remain committed to this issue, to facilitating change, supporting mental, physical, and emotional health of our students. And to that end, Kara will talk a little bit more about what we're doing in the classroom.
Thank you so much. We know that our students are going to take risks. I mean, it's a given, right? The health and physical education program in Montgomery County Public Schools provides an opportunity for our students, one, to learn about healthy ways to prevent taking those risks, and also through physical education, physical activity, coping strategies that they can use around mindfulness and mental health. Through that, we know that vaping is the issue at hand in this moment in time, and we use a multi-method approach to make sure that alcohol, tobacco, and other drug trends are not pressing our students to the point where they're incapable of taking advantage of the health literacy skills that we're teaching, so that way they feel comfortable to say no, to know the risk strategies, but also to know ways that they can step away from those risks and ask for help from a trusted adult or encourage a peer not to take an unhealthy risk. We use instructional practices, student engagement, partnerships, research, and data. And these are demonstrated through our board policies, through our students' rights and responsibilities, through the MCPS regulations, the state requirements that we're fulfilling each day with our students, the health education program of studies, as well as the physical education program of studies. It is through the local programming that schools do to identify and support students every day that are extensions of the health and physical education program. And we do continue to prioritize our students' health and well-being in Montgomery County Public Schools. As a result of that, you'll see the partnerships like Let's Clear the Air and the campaign for anti-vaping that's going on. The contest ends February 14th, so we look forward to many more students submitting video clips and PSAs showing the negative side effects and issues and persuading students to not take that risk or to stop taking that risk if they've begun that. We also have partnerships with the Montgomery County School Health Council, the State School Health Council, the Montgomery County Collaboration Council, SAMHSA, and more. We know that we have to tap into our subject matter experts to keep current with trends and data in order to make sure that students and teachers have the best resources possible, the current resources, so that we can debunk the myths that vaping is just water coming through a vaporizer. No students, no children, no parents. It is chemicals. It is dangerous. It has negative side effects, whether it is THC or it's a store-purchased item. It has negative ramifications. So we have to make sure that we're educating the whole community as well as students around that topic. As a result of this ongoing and reflective work, we're not perfect. We know that this is a continuous cycle. You know, we're getting feedback from parents, from students, from our teachers that say, hey, this worked in my class today, but I need more resources, information for this. I know I have students that have English language learners and they need access resources in this. I know I have non-diploma bound students, and how can I make sure I'm reaching all my students that could be faced with these challenges? And so as a result of that, we partner with the state, we partner with a lot of organizations to make sure that we're developing materials and resources that we're teaching our students to resist the peer pressure, to have the social and emotional competence to confront these negative issues that are coming at them from all directions sometimes, as well as linking with NIDA to make sure that we're staying current with the research and trends there. The overarching component about health education that really empowers students is that we know that vaping may be a risk for one student, but may not be a risk for another. So the goal of the health education program is to equip students with the health literacy skills around interpersonal communication, accessing valid and reliable information, as well as decision-making, goal setting, self-management, and advocacy. And those skills transfer, whether it's peer pressure, whether it's bullying, whether it's peer pressure to study for a test and you know you have to sleep and wake up at a certain time, or peer pressure to take classes you don't want to take, or social media influences, whatever it is, our students are going to be faced with something. How do we equip them and teach them about skills that they can use over time around effective communication, analyzing whether that piece of data you're looking at is fake news or actually real information, and how to digest that and make it understandable for who they are in that moment of their life. Overall, we know that there's a lot of work to be done, but we do have a comprehensive health and physical education program that provides instruction from pre-K through 12 for our students, and we continue to accept and employ our partnerships across the district, the state, and even the nation. Thank you.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about student well-being and safety this morning in a variety of areas. We also want to call attention to the fact we take care of our children as a community because they are our future. That is the right thing to do. They are vulnerable. They are young. They have to learn and grow and develop to become independent adults out in our community. We also want to take good care of them because that makes them always more ready to learn, more ready to be able to experience school for the very core purpose that it exists, which is learning, growing, and then having real options and choices when you walk off the stage with that diploma. And so each month we're going to be giving you some information about ways that we're working to support our children, areas of growth and improvement, and areas where we want to keep working. So today they're going to be handing you some documents that look at that, and we're going to do that every month. We know, and I've been talking about it since February 4th, 2016, when I stood here and was introduced as the person who was coming to Montgomery County as the new superintendent, that we have disparities. They exist, they're real, and oftentimes they're predictable based on income level, on race, on culture, and other student factors. We're seeing some significant positive changes in that area. We need more. We're by no means where we need to be, but we'll provide some documents today that begin to show that. And I would challenge each of you to really look at this information and both hold us accountable as a school system to reach our students, especially when you look at our equity accountability model. We know the groups of students who experience the greatest disparities. They are African American students who are not in poverty, African American students who are in poverty, white and Asian and all other students who are in poverty, and Hispanic Latino students who are not in poverty and are in poverty. And we break that up in those ways because we want to be able to look and understand what's happening with each individual student, with each student population, and across our system. And so each month we'll be providing information to you to think about that as a part of the complete picture of Montgomery County Public Schools. Another part of the picture here is the terrific 24,000 staff members that support students every single day. And today we want to highlight one of those staff members, a young man I met in my very first year here, and his name is Sean Peng. And I really want to just highlight him as an example of the kind of work that gets done on behalf of students. Mr. Peng was the 2017 Washington Post Teacher of the Year, and recently he was named the 2019 Kleist Noble Educator of the Year. 10 such awards are given in the nation each year, and I think it's significant, and many of our staff members are recognized for much of their good work, and today we just want to invite Mr. Peng up. I want the chance to shake his hand and congratulate him, and he can share a couple of thoughts with you about why he does what he does. Sean Peng.
As a teacher who teaches primarily ninth grade, 4 years ago, I had a student I taught, And, not the brightest kid, didn't get the best grades, but sweet kid, smiles all the time. And so recently, this past spring, he graduated, and that was fantastic. So we kept in touch all 4 years. And so it wasn't until a month before he graduated that I was contacted by his parents, telling me that this kid was suicidal, and he faced depression. And the only reason why he did not commit suicide was because he did not want to disappoint Mr. Pang. And so the power of relationships is incredibly important, and sometimes more than we know. It can literally save lives. And so how do we do that? We build communities, and we have to support teachers to build these communities. Extracurricular activities, after-school activities, in-school activities, all these things that we can promote students to learn, we must do. And so I know for sure that I can do more. And I think collectively, we can do more. And if there's anything that we can do to better the lives of children, it will be worth it. And so the things I do, I hope other teachers can do as well. And I want to acknowledge the wonderful community we already have, all the parents and all the students and all the teachers and administrators, but we can still do more. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Certainly, Mr. Peng's story, and he's agreed that I can share this information with you, is inspiring to me. He came with his family from Hong Kong when he was 6 years old. He was served in an ESOL program, and he went on to complete his education, graduate from high school, become a teacher, and has focused the last several years in building strong relationships and making sure that students learn what they need to learn in his English classes and in the activities that he works with. And he works with a great number of activities in his school. I've been in his classroom and really appreciate all he does on behalf of every student. So the well-being and the safety and security and the teaching, the learning, and the challenge we have in front of us to make sure that we have both equity and excellence as an organization have all been the subject of our conversation today with you. And at this point, I think we can answer some questions before we finish. I'll turn it over to whoever. Dr. McKnight, join me. Mr. Watkins and Ms. Rubens, be ready.
Thank you, Superintendent Smith. Specifically with regard to combating hate and bias, can you tell us what you did in the recent incidents with swastikas? I believe at Silver Creek, 2 or 3 incidents, and JCRC was there as a partner. Could you just tell us specifically how you are addressing hate and bias in
Absolutely,
schools?
that's a very good question, and one that we want to talk about because we want to talk about our students and how they came together. And Dr. McKnight is going to share some really specific information with you about what happened at the school and how the students responded. Dr. McKnight?
Okay, thank you for that question. I tell you, that particular incident that happened at Silver Creek created an opportunity for the community to be involved in a way that was really impactful. And I'm so glad that Gia is here from JCRC because she was very much a part of leading that effort. And so what they were able to do were some powerful things at Silver Creek. And I'll say one of the most important and critical follow-ups it did was that students, again, and I mentioned this earlier, were a big part of leading the effort. Student leaders called upon their peers to be respectful and act in ways with one another that reflect respect and dignity. And so when we have our students make that call upon their peers to do that, that sends a message that this is important to the people who have to live into this community. And I'll say that was a big part of the discussion, the work that happened at Silver Creek. And I'm proud to say that we had an overwhelming response, and JCRC collected data from our students about how they were impacted by those activities that were done at Silver Creek Middle School. And our students gave an overwhelming response saying that it was such a meaningful experience for them. They learned so much. They were invested in this process. And again, I'll just emphasize the biggest opportunity we had there was that our students took the lead with this, and they said that this experience was meaningful for them. And so anytime our students tell us this is what we need more of, this is what's working, and this is going to help us solve a problem that we want to take the lead with, we encourage that. And I'll say that our student leaders also had a big part in working with the leaders. They worked with the leaders at Silver Creek Middle School to say, you know, hey, this is what we need, and this is what we need from the adults, and this is how we think this would be an approach that would be meaningful to our student body. And so those are some of the things that I'll highlight about Silver Creek middle school experiences that occurred over the last few weeks that really address that. And I would be remiss if I also didn't mention the collaborative effort of central office. Earlier, I did not say this, but we have Mr. Edmondson from the Office of Compliance, Mr. Body from the Equity Unit, Dr. Rathbone from the Office of Family and Community Partnerships, all here, and they have combined and put their heads together to put their arms around the school to say, how can we help with the community partners in this effort? And so again, I think this has become something that everyone has owned. And so when the students feel like all of the adults are coming together and are invested in this, then they feel empowered.
Can I follow up on that? Two questions.
Sure.
You mentioned the behavioral threat assessment team. You mentioned the behavioral threat assessment team. Under
Yes.
what conditions is that deployed, and what does that look like? And then the other thing is, you mentioned you're going to track if you see a spike in incidents, and at Silver Creek, it was over a period of 2 different academic years. How do you document that the efforts you're making are effective?
Great, thank you so much for those questions. So first, I'll talk about the behavior threat assessment team. And so, as I defined earlier, the things that are included in identifying what hate and bias is, it was exactly those things that I identified earlier. You know, all of the things that represent possible discrimination. When we think about activating the behavioral threat assessment team, once we complete our investigation, it's then important for us to collaborate with other partners to see, is there anything that is extended beyond what we have done that we've defined as discrimination or acts of discrimination that calls for us to involve others who need to investigate at another level. And so it's through our investigative practices that we then determine, you know, is this within the school system realm to address hate and bias? And if we find that there is something that extends beyond that, then that helps us identify when we then engage our behavior threat assessment team and how we engage them.
What does that deployment look like, though? I'm trying to think, like, what happens?
Depends
So-
on the circumstance.
Yes, definitely depends on.
I think most people sitting at home, I have no idea what that is.
So it'll be very different for every circumstance, but I'll say the meaningful thing that we have is we have these partnerships with all of these organizations. And so as we go through and we develop, or we work through incidents, that's how we really define how do we reach out to them and how do we reach out to them appropriately and how do they involve appropriately. And so I wish I could give you just a black and white answer in terms of this is what this process looks like in terms of how we engage for every incident, but it's not. But what I will say is that we have had conversations with all of our external partners, and I'll speak specifically about the Montgomery County Police Department to say, you know, hey, this is when we feel like we need your engagement in our investigative process because we see that there are some things that may go beyond what we define as hate, bias, incidents, or discrimination.
Imagine a group of professionals coming together. Sure. Imagine a group of professionals coming together, depending on the circumstance, and their areas of expertise and experience, working together. Both those in the schoolhouse, where there is a great deal of expertise and experience, and specialists like Elizabeth Rathbone, who's here today and could talk with you more after this is over, about how they come together depending on the needs. So it might be law enforcement, it might be mental health, it might be physical health, it might be all of those things, and really just thinking about how they work together as a team to respond to individual students and to the community of students, like Dr. McKnight explained so clearly about bringing the whole community together.
And then how do you know if it's worked?
Yes, so your question about spike in incidents, and so that is the very purpose of why we've said we will work collaboratively as a team to really monitor that data closely throughout the year to identify those spikes before we have to be reactive and say what can we do from a proactive lens to address what we see occurring.
Dr. Smith, last night at the county council hearing on the budget, there were a few students from Neilsville Elementary School who very eloquently spoke about how crowded their school is, one-way hallways, and begging the school system to bump them up. I guess they're going to get a new school in 2024. What do you say to them? Like, what's the solution in the meantime for them? That's 4 years away.
Well,
And
what
it wouldn't
I
be
would
those kids who would be at that school at that point.
What I would say to them is that over a year ago. In fact, when I first arrived here, I visited all of the schools, and in the process 2 years ago, we identified that Neilsville needed some serious work that had been known. It wasn't a surprise to anyone. Right along with that, I would say that we have literally dozens of schools that need serious work. And so when we look at that, it's just simply a matter of looking at all of our key facility indicators and trying to determine how we best use the resources that are limited and get to our schools as quickly as possible as we think about that, because we have a lot of schools. And I would tell you, as someone who worked at the State Department of Education, there are literally hundreds of schools that need work across the state, and thousands. There are almost 1,500 schools in the state of Maryland and over 100,000 public schools in the nation. And it is an area of serious concern. So it is not a satisfying answer to students and communities, but it is a matter of limited resources. And recently our capital request was reduced. And so that will have a big impact if that capital budget is not reinstated in the way that we've requested it. And I'm not talking about Neilsville specifically, I'm talking about the entire system. It will have an impact on what we're able to do across the system. But I've been in Neilsville several times for a variety of activities and tours of the school, and it does have facility challenges, as I said, like many of our schools do. And so it's measuring and weighing all of that against the need and against how we can schedule it as the money is available. Now, House Bill and Senate Bill 1 is some potential there for an influx of money. None of that money, I think, can be counted on in the coming school year. And so while people want to talk about that, and it's potentially coming, and it looks like with the both houses of the General Assembly in support and the governor's office expressing support, that will happen. But I do want to caution people to think that suddenly, July 1st of this year, the skies are going to open and money's going to fall down. It's just not going to happen that way. So we will do it as quickly as possible, given the limited resources that we're experiencing.
Other questions?
In terms of school bus safety, where are the stops changing that you mentioned off the main roadway and off to the more residential areas and apartment complexes?
Sure, this is a process they go through all the time, and no one is more qualified to talk specifically about that than Mr. Watkins.
So we're looking along state highways first as our most major roads in the counties, and we have a number of state highways in Montgomery County. I can give you an example, like in the Aspen Hill corridor, right along Georgia Avenue, where we had some students a couple years ago that were a crash spilled over onto the sidewalk, and they were involved in that crash. We've moved some of those stops already off of Georgia Avenue and several others around the county, but that's where we're looking first on the heaviest traveled and highest speed roadways first, and then we will expand that to, like I say, we review all of our stops every year, but state highways is where we're focusing right now.
I would just add that there is nothing that's been done that holds more promise for how we can better serve students than Kids Ride Free, and how we collaborate with the county government to increase the number of buses available to high school students and really begin to spread that out. But we will need more buses available and more routes, especially in the morning, because that time is very compressed. But I think that gives me some real optimism about how we can continue to better serve our most congested areas.
Dr. Smith, as you know, recently in a 24-hour period, we lost an elementary school student who was hit by her own school bus, and then the next day a Walter Johnson High School student killed crossing Montrose to get to his school bus. And I'm asking you, not for the specifics and details, but as school superintendent, what is your reaction when you get news like that, and what, if any, systems or what have you put in place in order to prevent that kind of danger?
Well, my reaction is that I feel like I've been hit in the stomach just as hard as someone or anything could hit me. And I think of my own 5 children who rode buses to school for many, many years, and now my grandchildren who are on school buses in other states where they live. And it's such an incomprehensible tragedy for a family. I don't have any words for how I feel when I get that, and I know that Mr. Watkins and everybody else engaged, and none of what we feel can even come anywhere close to what families and friends feel about this. What have we put in place? We review everything we do, not just when there are tragedies, but when anything happens, and we do it on a regular and routine basis to look at our practices. Do they make sense? One of the real dangers, not just for a school system, but for all organizations, is you study something, you work on it, you put it in place, and it works beautifully. And then you don't notice that 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years pass, and all the circumstances have changed. I moved to Maryland 20 years ago. I used to drive through Montgomery County. It doesn't look the same as it did 20 years ago. We have to constantly be vigilant and look at how the environment is changing and what response we need to make to that in our transportation program, in our teaching and learning, in our student activities, in our safety and security, in our health-related issues. And that's, I think, the thing that is most important, is that we put those in place and they happen regularly, that we update, upgrade, review, change, maintain, whatever we're doing based on the current context of the society and the community we live in.
And if I can, just recently, the county appointed Wade Holland as their Vision Zero person. He's familiar with the topic. So the first question would be, are you optimistic that we can make progress on that? The second is, in a recent incident involving a bus driver, there were complaints about their interaction with the parent, but beyond that, that driver is an aggressive driver. I know you have cameras in the buses. Have you been able to review anything that would indicate that's true or not?
Yes, we review everything and we respond appropriately. And so without a doubt, we review it and respond appropriately. In terms of being optimistic, I am optimistic. The Vision Zero is calling this, and it's not a new program, but it's getting heightened attention, as well as the attention we're paying in health classes, in elementary schools, in middle schools across the county to safe pedestrian walkways and to being thoughtful and aware. I can't tell you how frustrated, angry, panicked I feel when I see adults every day walking down the street like this. And the other day in Rockville Town Center, as I was going to the county council building, I saw a man almost get hit, and he was probably close to my age. This is a community-wide problem, and people need to pay attention. And they've got their nose in their phone, and it's not helping any of us in the car, on the sidewalk, in the street. And so I'm optimistic that this heightened level of attention, this effort that Mr. Watkins talked about, where kids come together and create ways of messaging to their peers, where the idea that high school students are creating information around student safety for elementary children is exactly the way we ought to be doing business. And we're doing that in health, we're doing that in safety, we're doing that in learning and teaching, we're doing it around our disparities of students' experience. If you look back at some of these handouts I gave you, our minority scholar students are messaging across the system to their younger peers about the value and importance of engaging in school as a learner and as a thinker. And I think that holds real promise for our whole society, including with Vision Zero.
Just going to say, I don't know if I think it may be both silly and serious, but I think there have been a number of incidents between like BCC and Walter Johnson and Whitman around sporting events where sometimes, I think in the last couple of years, Whitman and BCC had to have their football games on Saturday afternoons, not Friday nights, because the kids seem to clash both on campus and then off. What do you make of that, and what, if anything, is the school system doing to try to educate these kids? It's, you know,
well, and I'm not being silly about it at all, but I would say that has been an age-old problem. I mean, It has been a problem forever that students become highly engaged, often around sports, but not always. Sometimes the marching bands get competitive, sometimes the debate teams get competitive, but when they do that, that's a wonderful opportunity for us to teach and to provide what you just described as a natural and logical consequence. So if we're going to have a problem on a Friday night, we'll do it in the bright sunshine of Saturday afternoon. I remember when my daughter was about 5 or 6, and I was a 5th or 6th grade, and I was a high school principal, and we just have a speaker come in. And she said, when your child slams the door the first time because he or she is mad at you on their bedroom, don't yell. And this speaker spoke with a whole, several hundred parents in an auditorium, and I was the new principal at the school in Washington State. She said, don't get mad, don't yell, don't respond in anger. Take the door off the hinges. And the first time Kate did that, I took the door off the hinges. I'm happy to say Kate never slammed the door again, and now she's 35 and married with a child, and she'll have to take the door off the hinges for her little boy Pascal someday. So those natural and logical consequences, I think, that's the way we should always respond when students become in a heightened, excited way, and they make choices that aren't good. Maybe they're not as risky as some other choices, but they are an opportunity for us to teach and work with our students around how to move through life. And I think so I don't think it's a silly question at all, but I think it is an area for teaching and learning to be at the center of how we respond. So thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate the opportunity to share the work with you, and look forward to talking to you in the future. Thank you.